My two very favorite game series of all time is Final Fantasy and Resident Evil. I feel like they're both incredibly old school franchises that are actually fantastic. In my opinion, Final Fantasy created the mainstream idea of RPGs. And of course, Resident Evil, it made survival horror what it is today. Well, over the course of the last couple years, I've reported a lot about how good these games are and also the massive leaks. Resident Evil specifically has had constant leaks for stuff like when Resident Evil 4 Remake was first being talked about, it being a more spooky version of the classic game. All of those leaks turned out to be 100% accurate, and of course with Resident Evil Village, I actually talked a lot about when the first talks of it having vampires and werewolves began to seep into the internet. All that stuff came true. Well, now we're starting to get some leaks for Resident Evil 9 Apocalypse, but something about it definitely seems off. Let's discuss. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here. Hi, hope you're having a great day. If you could like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, there's been a bunch of people on Twitter specifically that have been sharing around these different talks about Resident Evil 9 being called Apocalypse. Now, this logo is just a mock-up. Fans have made it, and let's face it, it's actually an awesome freaking logo. But this is actually a Twitter account called Rhino. This dude talks a lot about supposed rumors. He doesn't have a very good track record. This guy, no offense to him, he just repeats hype. You know, he's a guy who's getting very excited for video games. But this tweet of his repeating these leaks went hyper viral, and about 1 million of you guys actually tagged me in it. And it's this: Resident Evil 9 is going to be called Apocalypse. This is the current working title and will reportedly star Chris and Claire Redfield, which are two characters that have never been in the same game, really, and now Jill Valentine. I mean, there's been times like Resident Evil Code Veronica where Chris and Claire, but you know what I mean, is if they're actually going to play and fight together, this would be an interesting game. One of the weirdest things about the Resident Evil series is that there is just so many crazy cool characters, but we don't see them actually meet up and match up that often. You know, you don't see Leon Kennedy teaming up with Jill Valentine. So people kind of just want to see these people actually fight together. Who else is mega hyped for Resident Evil 9 and the return of these three iconic leads? Now, there have been some other rumors that have sort of been circulating the internet that I don't really believe in, so I don't even want to share them, but people have been talking about the fact that apparently one of the ideas for Resident Evil 9 is like a hidden identity thing where you're going to work with people and take stuff down, much like Resident Evil Village, but sometimes some of the people in the village may actually be bioweapons later on, you know, like some people turn out to be werewolves or vampires, as an example. That stuff sounds great, but the weirdness of this rumor is that it's very much based on this leak that happened last year. In 2020, there was a huge hack. Capcom headquarters actually got completely deep dive exposed. Somebody broke into their network and copied a ton of data, and that's where some of these names are coming from. Specifically, the name Resident Evil Apocalypse, it was listed as a code name and not necessarily the final name of the game itself. These rumors, according to Dusk Golem, he considers them to be fake. Now, Dusk Golem is the official major leaker of all things Resident Evil, and he even leaked a bunch of stuff about Silent Hill. If you are actually into survival horror like I am, this dude is an actual authority. I've actually talked to him in private. The guy knows 100% what he's actually talking about, so he's saying that these rumors are a bit fishy. I am inclined to believe him. But I want to go a step further with this and say, where did these leaks come from? Apparently, this actually came from this Spanish Twitter account named Evil Hazard Brazil, not a Spanish Twitter account, a Portuguese Twitter account. I think these are people trying to just spitball ideas, and it's kind of getting blown out of proportion. but I think we can definitely say Resident Evil 9 is in development. Even beyond the actual hacked leaks, we know for a fact that right now Capcom is on fire. They released their sales data just a couple days ago. They had the highest selling year ever. This last year that just finished up here technically at the end of March, so this data, this like sales data is from about 5 weeks ago. The totals though, they sold just shy of 42 million games in a year. Now, of course, that's stuff like Monster Hunter Rise. There was, of course, the Resident Evil 4 remake, but now they're probably going to go even higher than that because we're about to get Street Fighter 6. I mean, it's insane how much they're actually selling stuff like Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. Oh, man, and Devil May Cry coming back. I definitely believe it's very obvious that right now they're working on Resident Evil 9. I think Resident Evil 9 is actually going to be bigger and more impressive. But also, honestly, I loved Resident Evil Village so much. That game completely blew me away. The spookiness, the characters, the crazy environments, Ethan Winter's amazing storyline, and then the conclusion of it with the Rose DLC. I think it's actually incredibly cool to think about what they're going to do with this budget. Capcom, some people have actually been calling them Godcom, or, because this truly is top tier Capcom era. I mean, hopefully they give us some more Mega Man and they'll be back in their heyday. But a lot of people are talking about the fact that this stuff, it's probably hearsay, but man, it would be incredibly cool to actually get a full-blown Jill game once again. Like bringing back one of the most beloved characters who, let's face it, in the Resident Evil 3 remake, people were a little bit dissatisfied with how well they handled Jill. It would be awesome to get an actual full Jill game. Additionally, they've talked about it. It's now official. Jill doesn't age anymore. She actually ages slower. So this is what she looks like in the Resident Evil 3 remake. She's still going to look like this. They could actually do a modern Resident Evil, like actually follow the events from Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 9 can actually carry that forward, and we'll still have a young, spry Jill. Now, I think we're going to get Resident Evil 9 next. I'm 100% dead set about that. I think we're probably not even going to see it, a reveal trailer or a tease, until next year. But I fully believe Resident Evil 9 comes first, then a Resident Evil 5 remake. I've said this in the past. I want a Code Veronica remake. More than anything, I definitely want a Code Veronica remake. I think there is a good chance, though. A lot of people have been kicking around the idea of a remake of the original Resident Evil. We already technically have 2 remakes of it. There was a version of Resident Evil that came out on the PlayStation 1. Then they did a director's cut, which actually fixed some of the glitches and added in some extra features and cutscenes. And then, of course, the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1. But even that came out almost 20 years ago at this point. That came out as an early GameCube game. That was how many console generations in the past at this point. I truly believe that we're going to see Resident Evil 9 before this next wave of crazy big remakes. And personally, I'm very ready for it. What do you think about these leaks? What do you think about these rumors? Are you excited for even the concept of Resident Evil 9? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And please keep dreaming. Also, to my buddy Nick, who randomly watches my videos sometimes, he's been wanting to borrow Resident Evil 4. Nick, come over. Do me a favor, buy me a taco and I'll lend you Resident Evil 4 remake. All right, buddy? I already beat the hell out of it. And I also have it on Xbox. I'll play it on Xbox if I have another craving. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.